Right, shalom, shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Waharaka Kodash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to you brothers out there in the highways, in the byways, teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. Now I got an article here, and it's gonna speak about another article that we spoke about at camp, where last year or towards the end of last year, not long ago, you had Big Oil Tony pontificating on the UK news about the digital ID and how it would help in the immigrant crisis which they're building up in Europe and in America. All right. Now, we know that this is all leads to the building of the MOTB infrastructure and the MOTB itself. And the digital ID is a pivotal part of the MOTB infrastructure. All right, it goes hand in hand with the CBDC, which, if you notice, has fallen out of the news cycle. But do you think that CBDCs have stopped being developed? No. All right, public and private partnerships are developing and preparing the CBDCs as we speak. The news, the news cycle is just psyops. So right now they're working on the digital ID and immigration and other things, and when it's time, they'll bring that back into the news cycle through one way or another. But it says UK press won over on digital ID, sets about explaining why to the public. Right, the popular press in the UK appears to have picked a side in the national debate over digital ID. So in the public, they act like it's a debate, and they'll have people that are for and people that are against and people who are concerned and all this stuff, when ultimately behind the scenes a decision has really already been made. It's just a matter of running the psyop to bring it in. It says falling in line with the majority public opinion and making the case for at least serious consideration of new policy from Westminster in the series of editorials. The Financial Times editorial board argued for the role of a national identity scheme in modernizing the country's government and public services on Sunday. That sounds good. Modernizing, right? The article acknowledges the complexity of the task and the need for debate and consultation. Because of course, whether or not these agendas get pushed through is based upon the people's agreement, which is BS. This is just a theater. Debate and consultation. The debate and the consultation is going to be manipulated to get the result that they've already concluded for themselves, all right? But they have to make it look like, it's organic and this is what the people want. Yeah? It says, but the time for those actions, it says, has come. Of course, because they're pushing forward. And the editorial by Sir Tony Blair in the Daily Mail, Big Oil Tony, last week kicked things off, arguing that the digital ID could be a once-in-a-generation disruption for the better. What was it? Build back better, right? That was what they said after the seating, right? Build back better, which is the power of three, the manipulation. It will save $2 billion a year as a return on an upfront investment of $1 billion and $100 million a year in maintenance. Blair also runs through the familiar arguments, and no doubt that the usual suspects, family members, and so forth are going to be getting these government contracts. You know how the thing go already. Blair also runs through the familiar arguments about improved access to government services, right? And a case for how national IDs could help resolve the nation's immigration problems, which immigration is at the top of the list when it comes to public crises right now. Right, that's always in the news cycle, and it was always being inflamed online too. All right, so they're gonna use these different crises to bring in these infrastructures and ultimately the MOTB. All right, but notice it says access to government services. One of the reasons for the digital ID and for the CBDC, as they have stated, is banking the unbanked, meaning giving everyone an opportunity to be within the system, which is another way of saying he calls it all. All right, they don't want anyone to be on the outside of the system. All right, they want everybody within the system. All right, and that's what this thing is all about. Um, cause right now you got people that don't have bank accounts, man. You know, you got people that don't have these IDs, passports, so on, so driver's license. So the Financial Times makes several similar arguments and suggests weaknesses in several arguments against the introduction of the digital ID in the UK. So they're shifting now. They're pushing it now. Anecdotal evidence suggests one of the UK's main draws is a perception that the lack of ID cards makes it easier to disappear into the grey economy than in many European counterparts. Financial Times Ed Board writes, requiring an EID to access benefits and housing could be a disincentive, to undocumented migrants and people trafficking gangs. Much has been learned. Who do you think runs these people trafficking gangs? The intelligence services. All right. Much as just like the drugs, this whole thing is a setup. Much has been learned around the world since Britain's last ill-fated attempt to introduce national ID, which was abandoned in 2010. All right, so they tried it in 2010. It weren't working, so they had to bring some more crisis in and work some more propaganda to bring it in now. Privacy arguments have less force when most adults happily carry smartphones stuffed with apps that can track everything from how many steps they do to what color socks they buy. All right, so you see how through the mobile phones and the apps, they've introduced the people to a new way of life, which makes it easier now to bring in the MOTB. A Monday editorial from The Times presents the issue in historical context, suggesting that arguments that may have been correct or at least held sway in the past no longer apply in the same way at all. In the information age, a digital identity is more commonly associated with civic participation than with state snooping. And another thing they're gonna do is this is why they're exposing CEOs and politicians and all, because ultimately they're gonna shift to AI governments and AI oversight, and people will be more comfortable with AI oversight than with people because they feel that people are corrupt and AIs will be incorruptible. Yeah, that's what's coming down the pipeline. All right, AI governance. You could Google that. Right, these companies, they'll replace CEOs with AI because people don't like the CEOs. People don't like that you have CEOs earning. There was an article that came out the other day. Right, CE bosses paid average annual salary in the first 3 days. Right, so they, people hear that, they're like, oh, that's crazy. How are they making all this money? These CEOs, and they don't trust these CEOs. They don't like them because there's a class war. So they're gonna replace this particular class of people with AI, and people are gonna accept it because they don't like them. All right, not knowing that they're just giving over to their own oppression. They're moving from one taskmaster to another, controlled by the same people. So, okay, where was we? Right. So it says in the information age, a digital identity more commonly associated with civic participation than with state snooping. Countries like Estonia have shown what is possible, and public opinion has shifted dramatically. So Estonia was like the, you know, guinea pig. It's a small country. They've gone over onto digital ID for all their services. So that kind of like is like a showcase, right? Just like they put in the CBDCs in the small countries first. Eventually, they're gonna do a big country like the UK. Probably the UK might be one of the first major countries to do it because of the financial system to set precedent. Don't be surprised. More than half of the UK, and the UK is down bad enough that they might need to do that anyway. More than half of the UK public now support digital ID, with a quarter strongly in favour and only 19% opposed. So that's it. According to this, which whether it's true or not, they're ready. They're locked in. They're ready to roll. The Times separately reports, citing a survey by the paper's Crime and Justice Commission, 53% support the introduction of national identity scheme, including 6 former Home Secretaries and 2 former Prime Ministers. The other is John Major, who, unlike Blair, led the Conservative Party. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And just to show you, which the Banker International Settlements have already said this, says one way or another, it seems clear CBDCs will have to be linked with digital ID to manage risk and secure payments. And the status of a national identity ecosystem could be a key determining factor in whether a wholesale or retail CBDC model is adopted. So one of the keys to the CBDC is the digital ID because it's all part of the same overall infrastructure. Just like how they had to have RFID to be ubiquitous, beginning with contactless payments. Now RFID readers are everywhere. Right? Where can you go that don't have RFID readers? In the UK, even when you go to the market, they got RFID readers, and that never used to be the case. You could pay with card everywhere now, and I mean contactlessly. So you can use contactless on your phone. Even your phones now are basically RFID readers. There's a lot of people, you just pay them on their phone. All right, you can tap your bank card on your phone to pay for Amazon products. You know, that's where we're at because the infrastructure is being rolled out for the grand finale, which is when they make the implantable chip mandatory, and that's going to encompass everything. It's going to have your digital ID, which will give you access to all the goods and services, including your CBDC account, your social media, everything. So, and your boy Elon is going to be pivotal. The X app is going to be pivotal in that because they're going to turn X app X.com into a super app, one stop shop for everything. All right, and it's gonna be interoperable with Google account. It's gonna be interoperable with your Facebook account. That's why when you go online to sign up for anything, you can use any one of those accounts to do it. All right. Remember, Twitter. Here you have X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, has received payment processing licenses in several US states. So they're getting ready to roll out where you can pay people and pay for services and receive money using X, right? It's the one-stop shop, man, the super app, which was always the plan from the very beginning. It goes back to the X.com model that PayPal came out of and Ripple. All right. So, Elon being there with Trump signals that they're ready to push ahead with these things. This is Revelations 13 and 16, and this is what it all comes down to. And he calls it all, right, banking them unbanked, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And we're breaking it down to you. We're showing you that we're in that time where everything is falling into place. And once they've got the infrastructure all nice and set up and ready, once the trap is prepared, what's left? A major crises to push it all through and to make that chip mandatory. Because at first they might even start, well, they're already chipping people. That's what we do know. But they might start even they might at first make it optional. Oh yeah, it's an option. You can get this chip. And you know, and then it'll go from optional to mandatory. But we'll see how it goes. It might just go straight to mandatory depending on what crises they cook up. But we're definitely in that time. All right, this is the time we're in, where this thing is right around the corner. So it's that I'm gonna say shalom.